one thing that really pisses me off when politicians get all pompous and self-important is when they say, Americans are asking that that is not us. We are not like that.
It doesn't represent our values.
Yeah, this is not what we Americans value. They speak for 330 million people. No, they don't. And, of course, when Trump came out and said, maybe we should put a brake on immigration for a year involving Muslims. Oh, that's not what we're about. That's against our values. Well, why don't you read a poll? Because according to the American Values Society, they released this poll in November. It got no play. But now it got a lot of play. Found out that 56% of all Americans agreed that Islamic values are incompatible with American values. 76% of Republicans, and even 43% of Democrats, as well as it looks like about 55% of independents. So this idea that there's only some extreme right-wing, hateful, xenophobic subsection of the Republican Party that believes in this is wrong. Now, whether the belief system is correct or not is a different story. But when you have 76% of Republicans, 55% of independents, and 43% of Democrats saying that Islamic culture is incompatible with American values, you got a huge issue. And the thing is, Trump's the only one addressing that. Now, he's addressing it in as crude and bombastic a way possible, but he's talking about it. And this is something that obviously a huge percentage of the population is interested in. And this is where everybody underestimates his power, and his power maybe in a general election. Right now, 50% of the country thinks that terrorism and all the related issues are the most important issue going. 50%. That's what they're going to vote on right now. Who's talking about it? He is. What about the rest of them?
Hillary's talking about gun control.
Yeah, gun control.
Apparently yesterday in a speech, that's what she said we need to do. And Obama said the same thing in part of his speech. He said, look, we can't keep track of all the people that might be suspects, that entire big watch list, so we have to do something about their access to guns. But, again, the guns is this pay or purchase were legal in California.
And by the way, everybody, unless you're a complete lunatic, knows that most Muslims in this country are peaceful. That's not the issue. And if you look at the hate crime list, Jewish people are 4 times more likely to have a hate crime impacted on their lives than a Muslim. 4 times as likely. Almost 60% of the hate crimes are against Jewish people. Only 14% against Muslims. So there's no out-of-control, violent backlash against Muslims. It simply doesn't exist. It's a fake issue. It's a false issue. The same way that people who say that Trump is proposing unconstitutional ideas, that's a false issue. That's not true. But those 2 things were the only 2 things I heard in the last 24 hours. What Trump is proposing is unconstitutional, false. That there's this wave, this backlash against American Muslims, false. Everybody knows most of them is peaceful. Well, nobody's saying otherwise.
I think what Trump is saying is that we're at a time of war, so the rules have to change. Let's play a couple of audio clips of Trump today making the rounds on the morning news show. Let's start with clip 9, and here he is on ABC with George Stephanopoulos.
You're increasingly being compared to Hitler. Does that give you any pause at all?
No, because what I'm doing is no different than what FDR's solution for Germans, Italians, Japanese, many years ago.
So you're for internment camps?
This is a president who was highly respected by all. He did the same thing. If you look at what he was doing, it was far worse. I mean, he was talking about the Germans because we're at war. We are now at war. We have a president that doesn't want to say that. We are now at war.
I've got to press you on that, sir. So you're praising FDR there. I take it you're praising the setting up of internment camps
No, he's
for
not.
Japanese
Stop
during
that.
World War
No,
II.
All right,
Stop
stop it.
that.
And that was
See,
that
there
was
you go.
unbelievable.
That's what I was talking about.
Clearly, this guy is connected to the Clinton White House. What an idiot.
Yeah.
By the way, was Trump on a speaker box? What kind of audio was that? I know he's on the phone, but it sounds like he's on a speaker. He might have been on a speakerphone.
An airplane phone.
I mean, you talk about a setup. What he's talking about is immigration, maybe tourism. No immigrants of Islamic faith for a while. This guy turns it into internment camps immediately, and because Trump didn't respond, he's bringing it up again. And by the way, that got played today. Headlines on several websites.
Yeah.
That Trump doesn't rule out or doesn't really separate.
Right,
It's not what we're talking about.
He never said that. This is like the 100th time that a reporter has suggested something. And then the headline becomes Trump says blank.
Right.
No, he didn't. He said specifically.
Because he either barrels right over it or just ignores it, or
He said specifically FDR did far worse. Right? He said FDR did far worse. And of course, Franklin Roosevelt is the all-time greatest liberal hero in the history of the Democratic Party. And Trump points out, it's like, hey, one of your guys, he did far worse. He set up the internment
I think
camps.
the question should have been, did we admit a lot of Japanese immigrants during World War II into the U.S.? I doubt it. That's it. Not internment camps. Trump never talked about rounding up all Muslims in the United States and putting them in internment camps until we can figure this out. He didn't say that.
You see that speech Sunday night? The speech of a fool. And the Republicans, most of those candidates are fools. We've had two foolish presidents in 16 years. Bush never responded when Al-Qaeda was coming, and Obama didn't respond for ISIS coming.
Yeah, you can add Clinton. You said they could have taken out bin Laden.
Clinton could have taken out bin Laden in 1998. So we've had three buffoons in a row. We got two buffoon political parties. So now there's an outsider blowing the whistle and saying, you know what? We've gone to hell here. We're in trouble. We told you last hour. Remember this. There's 48 ISIS supporters who have 24/7 FBI surveillance right now. They found 71 ISIS sympathizers that have been arrested. 71, including 10 women. There were 72 people on the terror watch list working for the TSA. There's no controls. There's no vetting. There's no screening. There's no background checks. There's no nothing. They're here. And these are the ones we know about. God knows what we don't know about. God knows how many Farouk and Tafsheens are whiling their time away in the garage late at night, and the neighbors are going, what's going on in there? Oh, geez, I don't want to profile.
All right, more of your calls coming up on Trump's call for a ban on Islamic immigration for the time being.